Welcome back to this episode of the Deep Penetration Podcast. If you don't know who I am, my name is Danny, and I'm a love and self-esteem coach that works with the LGBTQ plus community. I work a lot with men, gay men, and bisexual men on all matters of self-esteem, self-love, self-acceptance, and just navigating the dynamics of relationships and learning how to build healthy and sustainable relationships. So, if you are somebody who believes that it's impossible to find a long-lasting, healthy relationship within the queer community, I'm here to prove you wrong. So, subscribe. That way, I can prove you wrong. No, make sure that you're subscribing because at the end of the day, it helps me to continue to do what I do, and do what I love, which is to sit down and talk to you guys about all of these subjects, because I think they're important, unpacking stereotypes and common misconceptions that we have within the community. Well, not only outside of the community, but within the community as well. So, what are we talking about today? We are talking about losing yourself in search of belonging. And I think this is a very important topic. I think this is a very important episode because I work with a lot of people who experience this, particularly within the queer community. The journey of self-discovery and acceptance is a significant aspect of the queer experience, and many gay and bisexual men, I don't even want to limit it to gay and bisexual men, right? Anybody who is a part of the queer community and has gone through the process of trying to find themselves experiences them. But because I work a lot with gay and bisexual men, that is why I reference that. But, many of us have faced the challenges of trying to navigate societal expectations, coming to term with sexual orientation, and really just searching for a sense of belonging. The journey to self-love and self-acceptance looks very different for every single person. It's a very subjective experience. So we have to keep that in mind. And in my years as a coach, I have worked with many, many people who lost themselves because they were desperately trying to fit into a mold of what the perfect queer person looks like. And the truth is, there is no perfect queer person. Perfection is a concept that society created to increase production, So if you strive for perfection, you will never achieve it. The queer community, as much as I love it, and I am passionate about supporting the community, individuals within the community, you at home who's watching, has its issues that need to be addressed and need to be fixed. But at the end of the day, no community is perfect, right? But we have allowed our own personal insecurities to impact how we treat others within the community. I can speak for myself when I say I have definitely curbed my personality in certain social settings to try to fit in. That need for acceptance and love and validation was so strong that in my desire to be accepted, I lost myself. I have no issues with being open about that and being honest about that, because at the end of the day, in order to guide other people, I had to find myself first, right? That was very important. I think that also rings true for any of you that had to play a role for years because you were not ready to come out, or you're still not ready to come out. And the truth is, well, the truth about belonging is this, if you accept and love yourself for who you are, your compass will direct you towards people that can appreciate and accept you. Belonging begins within yourself. Feeling comfortable in your skin and knowing that you have value starts with you. When you see the value in yourself, others will also start to see it. So if we're going to unpack this, we should start with understanding um, the queer experience, right? The queer experience often involves this search for acceptance, for love, and for a sense of belonging. I think society's heteronormative ideals and the stigmas around homosexuality can kind of create this feeling of exclusion and isolation. And because of this, a lot of us have been left to deal with trigger emotions like shame, which are very deeply ingrained in us, and they come out in many different ways, but particularly they come out in our romantic relationship, right? So I think the big thing to understand here is that societal messaging and suggesting that being gay or bisexual or lesbian or trans is somehow wrong or unacceptable is false. But because it is so present and something that we deal with all the time, it usually leads to self-doubt and self-criticism and the sense of unworthiness. So throughout that journey, throughout that process, a lot of us start to lose our self. And what are the impacts of losing yourself, right? I think in the pursuit of belonging, you may feel compelled to hide or suppress your true self, to conform to societal expectations or try to kind of fit into these predefined molds. And what this does is it really chips away at authenticity, um, and makes you disconnect from your core identity and who you are. And it's not intentional. It's not that you're trying to do that. Maybe for some of you you are, but almost everybody that I have spoken to and I have worked with did not intentionally try to disconnect in that way. It was survival mode, right? It was a necessity in order to be able to kind of get through and survive. So when you compromise your true self just to fit in, it strains your relationships because you're not being you, right? Authentic connection requires vulnerability to show up as your genuine self, right? So losing yourself in the search of belonging stops the development of any deep connections or meaningful connections that you may have with somebody. So it's important that you start the process of healing and reclaiming that authenticity, right? Focusing on self-compassion really allows you to embrace your authentic self. Because if you create space for kindness, for compassion, for patience, you give that internal piece of yourself that you have been trying to hide for so long some oxygen. You let that person breathe. And for the first time, when that person starts to breathe, it starts to give them energy. And that energy is a snowball effect. It's important to give yourself that space so that you can start to embrace your true nature and your true self, right? Acceptance is crucial in this process. So challenging the shame that you feel, challenging that self-judgment, challenging the self-criticism, and reframing that negative narrative in your mind to one of positivity and self-support and self-love and self-care, right? As queer individuals, our experiences of rejection result in long-time insecurities. And a lot of these insecurities we bury for years and years and years. And these buried emotions result in difficulty with navigating and managing emotions. So recognizing and addressing trigger emotions like shame is going to be essential for healing, right? So I usually recommend working with a coach like myself in order to kind of start to unpack these things and really start to begin that process of getting you on the right road. But let me be clear about something. When it comes to anything that has to do with emotional trauma, um, or any types of trauma, I always recommend getting or working with a therapist, right? A clinical therapist, a licensed therapist, anybody who can walk you through that and is licensed to walk you through that. As coaches, we are not licensed to diagnose and we are not licensed to walk you through trauma. So if you ever meet a coach that tells you they are, unless they are a licensed clinical therapist, they are lying to you. Be careful. So I always like to create a support network because I think that's incredibly important, right? A support team is very important as you go along this journey so that one, you don't feel alone, and two, you have a sense of direction. So you're able to start to rebuild that sense of confidence, right? Not only that, but supporting yourself with or surrounding yourself with supportive people, right? A strong community of individuals who see you for you, who appreciate you for you, who love you for you, and will support you through that process, but are also willing to be very real with you and very honest with you and raw with you when they have to be, as long as it's not negative criticism, right, that they are giving you, as long as it's constructive criticism, then for me, I think that's important because challenging your beliefs, challenging your mindsets, and having somebody really kind of shine a light on that is going to help you grow. And in doing that, it helps you to start to reconnect. And when you reconnect, you're able to cultivate authentic relationships. Prioritize that, right? Prioritize building authentic relationships with people that you truly connect with and that you feel have shared and mutual understanding and respect and love for one another. And the last part of this is just embrace exploration. Exploration is necessary when you are developing and growing as a person. That does not mean that you have to throw yourself headfirst into the pool, because for me, I mean, sure, there's like the sink or swim model. That's fine. I remember my dad threw me into the pool when I was a kid and basically was just like sink or swim. Quite literally. I swam. I'm still here. So it wasn't child abuse. That's how we did things back in the day. But I feel like as beneficial as that can be, at this point in your journey in your life, it is probably best to go about this a little bit more slowly, setting micro goals and being realistic with those goals. So as you achieve them, you start to build that sense of self-confidence and you start to feel good again, right? That's going to be very, very important. Losing yourself. I mean, to be honest with you, I feel like a lot of us lose ourselves at some point in our life. But here's the beautiful thing about that. When you realize that you've lost yourself, that means that at some point in your life, you knew yourself, which means you have the ability and the capability of knowing yourself again. And that period where you are lost is actually a learning lesson. It's a period to really be present and to take the good and the bad and utilize it to grow and to rediscover parts of yourself that maybe you never even knew were there or existed. And again, it's really just part of that growing process, right? That metamorphosis, that kind of caterpillar to butterfly stage. So yes, being lost can be scary, but it is absolutely essential and can be incredibly beneficial in the long term when you do rediscover and find yourself again. I hope you guys found this episode to be helpful, insightful, inspirational, whatever the case may be. Please make sure you are answering the poll at the end of the podcast. And again, if this is your first time listening in, please make sure you are subscribing. If you are coming back, then welcome back. Thanks for sitting down and having a chat with me, and I will see you guys in the next episode.